Last thing I want to talk about from Omar today is Jordan Addison. I've let his name slip out of my mouth like a dozen times during this podcast. Don't know why. I think it's because I've just been waiting to talk about him. He was brought up. There was literally nothing said. Somebody asked about him. ESPN's Brooke Pryor asked about him. And teaming him up with Kenny Pickett, he said, yeah, you're probably going to have to ask Kenny about that one. But Jordan Addison is a really good player. That was the whole quote. Jordan Addison is a really good player. Moved on to the next question. I think you could take this one of two ways. One, they have no interest in Jordan Addison, which is my initial thought. My initial thought was they could care less about Jordan Addison, because then he talked about Calvin Austin like 3 times and how excited they were to have Calvin Austin back and how excited they are about that room as a whole. Or you could look at it and say, well, last year they didn't say anything about Kenny Pickett except for that he's a good football player. And they made sure nobody thought that they liked him. And then boom, they drafted him, and they talked so highly about he was their top guy the whole draft process. Maybe they're doing it again with Jordan Pickett or with Jordan Addison. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, like he said, you have to ask Kenny about it. People have asked Kenny about it. Kenny's not shy. Kenny loves Jordan. Kenny wants him so bad. And so I don't know. They have also said that they have they've picked Kenny's brain about his former Pitt teammates, and Jordan's one of those former Pitt teammates. There are a bunch of them here, and Jordan's one of them. I have no doubt that Kenny said nothing but good things about Jordan, about his ability, about his work ethic, about his smarts. And I can't imagine he would have said anything different in those meetings. I don't think it's completely impossible that the Steelers could reach for him at one of those picks. Like you said, I don't think they'll pick him at 17. He's not one of those guys they'll move up for, but he could be there at 32. That's the beauty of that 32nd pick, is it at the end of the first round, you can usually find some gems, and that's essentially what that second round pick is. It's a first rounder.
So let me ask this. We talked about moving up with 17. If Jordan Addison's sitting there at like 25, do the Steelers make a move and trade back in and go get Jordan Addison and shock the world? Could you imagine? There's a lot of trade ups, Lamar Jackson. I can't. Lamar Jackson's the big one. Tim Tebow was one of them at one point. There's always been those trade ins where everybody's like, oh my gosh, they know what they're doing. This is huge. Jordan Addison would light Steelers Nation on fire if they traded back into the first round to get him. Do you see that as a possibility?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it. My first instinct is to say no, but they have I don't know. The fact that they have so many other picks makes it, the more I think about it, the less impossible it does seem.
Yeah. As I pitched it, I convinced myself it could happen. It could very much so happen. I just don't see, why not? Why not?
Right. And it's just like, I don't know. This is a passing league. Like, I feel like they can kind of read the writing on the wall. They can see they can see what people in their own division did and didn't do. They can see what the Bengals did do. They can see what the Ravens didn't do, building around their respective really young, really good quarterbacks. You got to wonder, why, again, why not? I really doubt there would maybe be some opportunity lost from not taking, your corner or your offensive lineman or your defensive lineman, whatever. There'd be some opportunity cost there, but I watched Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett throw touchdowns to each other in person at Heinz Field when I was at Pitt, and it was pretty impressive. And I have no doubt that they would be a special connection again in the NFL. It would work. You just have to consider what you're losing by not picking someone else and by giving up those picks to get Jordan.
I think that's the thing, though, is, okay, so if you get a corner at 17, if you get your guy at 17, and then you feel very good about your offensive line, because Omar Khan said 10 times that they feel very good about the offensive line, you probably go and sign an inside linebacker, I would imagine. You already got Terrell Edmonds back, hopefully. You got Cam Sutton back, hopefully. You don't really have a ton of holes. You got to go find a defensive line. But guess what? You still got another pick coming up at 49. Really good defensive linemen are probably going to be there at 49.
Right.
You give up 20, you give up 32, and you give up 80. Go get Jordan Addison? I don't know. Maybe at that point it's just who's the best player on the field or on the board. Jordan
Right.
Addison by a mile.
Right.
Well,
And sometimes it's not. And sometimes you don't need to overthink it. Like sometimes you
Yep.
don't need to just. Sometimes you just got to make a reach for a really good player, and it works, and figure everything else out later.
yeah, especially with that, like it's like, oh, okay, well, if they were adding another running back situation, if they're adding another like a third corner situation or fourth corner situation, you know, a fourth safety situation, a fourth inside linebacker situation, a fourth outside linebacker situation, your fifth wide receiver in a league where wide receivers dominate everything, and he already has the repertoire with Kenny Pickett. If it was a different wide receiver, that's much less likely. But the fact that Jordan Addison.
Right. I'm not moving up for Quentin Johnson or
nobody else. Literally not another one.
Right. This is the guy. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It almost makes too much sense, quite honestly.
It does almost make too much. As I was pitching it, I was just like, I wonder if that's on their mind right now. I wonder if that's what they meant by this. I literally wrote an article today about how Jordan Addison just, you know, I didn't get a spark when Omar Khan was talking about Jordan Addison. I have now talked myself into there is a huge spark, and they are hoping that he slides to whatever so that they can move up and trade back in and get him and just explode Steelers Nation. If Omar Khan walks out of day one of the NFL draft with, I don't know, Joey Porter Jr. and Jordan Addison, you don't have to do anything else. You've won. You won the draft. People wanted two names. You got them. You did your job. Good for you. Let's go to the season. Let's head to the season. See what happens.
Right. Well, then every other pick is gravy. Like every other pick you can is
go find a defensive lineman somewhere in the third round or the second round. If you could do that and still have the 49th pick in the draft, Omar Khan is
a wizard.
A wizard, but he is a wizard. That's the thing, is he's already been of his entire career. So to say these things are like, maybe it wouldn't happen. I don't know. I have a hard time telling myself that you have to downgrade what Omar Khan is capable of doing. So there you go, Steelers Nation. Pittsburgh's going to walk out of here. The Steelers are going to walk out of here day one of the NFL draft with two superstars, trade back in, do something that nobody believes they ever do ever. But they're going to get their guys. And that's how we're feeling.